So let's start with the roll call. Can you start, please, Dave?
Doug Porter,
Tim Young, Joseph Adeletta,
David Morse.
Sid Blodgett,
Aaron Farbo,
John Day,
Dwight
Go ahead.
Ryanowitz.
We can designate two alternates today. We'll designate John and Dwight. And then we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Note that Chuck Lewin. Mr. Rod, please. Thing for the alternates. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Doing the work that you do. Do we have any citizen comments that aren't on going to cover tonight? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We have the meeting minutes. People get a chance to look them over. We have a motion to approve.
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? We've heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Great. That brings us on to the opening of the continuation of the public hearing on application number 667-09-25, special permit application for change of use on 6 and 8 Stonebridge Road. The Carbones. So,
Understand?
yeah, please. I got John.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you? The Carbones sent a letter that you posted that got posted online that we did not get a copy of. I don't know if people saw that. Can you put that up on the screen, please?
Are you looking for the revised statement of use? The revised narrative?
Yeah.
Is that here? Hold on, let me double check where it is.
I realized it came in, I think, yesterday,
Tuesday.
Tuesday. In the future, could we have printed copies of these at the meeting when something comes in late like that, they can't make the packet? Please.
Yes, we can do that. Let me see. Stonebridge. Oh, there it is. Updated narrative. Thank you. Okay. Ben, is this the correct document?
There's red annotations, yes.
Right here.
Yep, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Proceed, Mr. Carbone.
Oh, you want me to go through this or do you have any
please,
questions
just
from the
so
site
that
visit?
I would like you to go through it because I'm not sure everybody saw it, and I know there are a lot of people here that are interested in this.
Sure. So a couple things have happened over the last few weeks since the initial meeting here for the special permit. We had a site visit, which took into consideration, the layout of the property and the way that the venue would be established, where parking would be annotated or marked, and also where the events would be held on the outdoor premises. I also met with Will Skeen, the fire marshal. This was about 2 Fridays ago, looking at the occupancy allowance of the property, the exterior, taking into consideration weddings, but then also what was allowed on the interior of the property. He gave, cited exactly some links from the codes of the fire code there. And essentially the conclusion that we came to based on the size tent is really what predicts and projects the allowed occupancy for fire code. So with there being tables and chairs within a tent, it's about 15 square feet per guest. So we walked the property, Will and I, And basically I gave him the layout as to where things would be based on the site map that I was holding in front of me. About a 40 by 60 tent. He said that it would fall within the parameters of the buffers between property lines. And that's 2,400 square feet. So you take 2,400 square feet divided by 15 square feet, gives you 160 max occupancy underneath that tent. However, taking into consideration comments from our neighbors and also looking at, the way that weddings are being held in the current market, after discussing with wedding planners that we are associated with and a large company that does a lot of weddings around here, Pronzi Rentals out of Providence. They said, they're not seeing too many weddings that exceed 150. So to be respectful, and to make it so, there would be a limitation on parking and the use of our grounds, we're looking at about a max of 130 occupants per designated event or wedding over the course of a seasonal period. So it's not going to be a 12-month full year event venue. We're going to look at a seasonality, also taking into consideration comments from the town and our neighbors, just to be respectful on that end. Also, where it would be compressed, looking at a time frame from mid to early March into November. So from November to March, there would be no exterior events or massive events happening at the property of the scale that we are proposing of 130 occupants. Any questions from that?
Ben, did you put the seasonality in the narrative?
It should be down a little further. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's the
Frequency and capacity.
Yeah.
No. Is it here?
No, it's there. March 15 to.
there. Sorry, what is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, John, I'm old. I can't see the screen. What page are you on? The
Page number.
This is on page 3.
page 3 of 41?
Oh, no. This is the separate document that was posted called Updated Narrative for Special Permits.
Okay, thanks.
Would have been in your email, Doug. Maybe.
Well, it should be on the site.
Yes,
It should be on the town site. Is it on the town site?
It sure
Yes.
is, Doug. It's right down here. It's right, Stonebridge Updated Narrative for Special Permits.
I'm not quick with this yet. Yeah, I'm trying. Give me a computer wired to the wall. Much better. I'll find it. Thank you. I've read it. I just can't.
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Do we have any questions from board members from?
Yes, just going over some of these things, just want to let you know, I'm pleased with the intention of utilizing the space, the house, as an inn. In looking over the numbers and even the adjusted description, and after our site walk, looking at the property and the neighbors, I still have concerns about the frequency and scale of events. I think all of us feel comfortable if a neighbor has a wedding, a family wedding in their backyard, and it goes on for one day. I don't see that as a problem. But having a big event, even in the time frame you just mentioned, March 15th to November 30th, that looks like about 8.5 months. At 4.3 weeks per month, that's about a 37 weeks of event time. And you were looking at 50 to 70 events, presumably in that time frame. So that's 2 events per week, approximately. And I think you already described that that's not necessarily events of 130 to 150 people each time.
Correct.
That being said, you don't have any particular, well, you do have control over that by denying a wedding party an event, but there's nothing yet that puts in the special permit a limitation on that. And just so you know, that's the kind of approach I'm trying to think about for large scale events. large scale being 100 to 130 attendees. To put a limit on the number of occasions those large scale events can take place during this 8.5 month period. I think having a venue for birthday parties, which I'm envisioning are relatively small, but sometimes they get pretty big, or business meetings, or receptions, cocktail receptions, things like that.
Yeah.
That could take place within the envelope of the inn itself. Those kind of events, in my mind, could kind of take place most of the time, because 15 to 20 to 30 people doesn't sound like a bad number for that site. It's just that, given the proximity of all the neighbors, a large scale event is a concern of mine. And we're in the public hearing part. We're not specifying anything, but I just wanted to let you know where I'm looking at something like this. If we come to a special permit decision, that I'm looking to have some kind of limitation on large scale events, and we'll have to define large scale.
Sure.
Maybe 100 to 130 people.
Yeah.
But that's how I'm feeling. I like the business aspect. I think it's good that the facility will be used, particularly if it's used as an inn. We got feedback from the inn at Woodstock Hill that if they have events, it would be nice to have another facility for their guests to stay over. So all of that sounds good. It's really just the large scale events that I'm trying to look at, given the parking limitations, the noise, the proximity to the neighbors, all of those things.
Sure. Yeah, appreciate it. And to touch on that, so there is a second notation here where capacity events of 75 or more patrons would be held on weekends, in essence. So, weekdays we wouldn't be disturbing the local area. It'd be smaller scale events.
Yep.
And on top of that, so we did contract a traffic study engineer company, Chappelle Engineering Associates, out of Westboro, Mass. They are beginning the process. It's usually about a 4-week period of time for them to actually exercise a traffic study. So they're looking at everything that we have sent them in the narrative, the comments that have been given by the town, and taking into consideration all of it, that how it would maneuver with traffic, parking, things of that nature. But offsite shuttles is also certainly something that we can utilize. Private businesses that have shuttle companies and things of that nature, from hotels like the Comfort Inn Suites in Killingly, hotels in Sturbridge. I think we're in close enough proximity where guests will be staying in those hotels when they're traveling for events or weddings.
So that's the kind of shuttle service you're envisioning for guests who are staying at hotels, not necessarily meeting at the Price Chopper parking lot, parking
No.
there with a
No,
shuttle bus picking people. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
no, definitely not.
A little
No.
tacky.
Well,
Yeah, that'd be kind of odd.
you're not envisioning that. You don't know what the next owners might envision.
Right.
So,
And maybe there's language that could put limits on
yeah.
those types of things.
Okay.
And I also updated the site survey based on the property lines and the amount of space that we had to dictate, parking spaces also.
Yes.
Anybody else have a question from the board?
I just wanted to have a quick clarification. I'm looking for the property, the layout of the property. There was one
Yeah.
plot of land that didn't have a name. Yeah. I don't know if yes, if you see the big yellow section on the upper right,
Here,
that, yes. What's the property just behind that lot line?
back here,
That one, yes.
that's this property here.
In L shape.
Oh, it is,
Yeah,
it's an L shape that goes, okay, all right.
So as we were walking the site,
It's the
this was
same,
the boundary line with that split rail fence.
yeah,
Then I had the red markers here.
yes.
It's that same property that,
Okay, that other straight line,
Yeah.
threw me off there, but that was a boundary line. Okay, thank you.
of course.
Joe,
Yeah, this report, your engineering firm, they're gonna come up with a number of parking spots on your property?
I think they did.
So they can assess that. The last meeting you asked just for, hash marks based on the square footage and the amount of feet going across the property. So that's what we did there, is just put hash marks, but the traffic study will incorporate parking at the property, but also the flow of traffic from the property into the surrounding routes.
So they'll actually show the parking areas in this report?
So I mean, we can have them do that, but we have designated parking areas already.
Yeah, I'd like to see exactly where the cars are gonna park.
Do you see the red hash marks
See
there?
that, Mark?
That's not what we typically see from a site plan. Hash mark.
Hash.
We see an engineer lay out a site plan.
Sure.
And I have some significant issues with the application. And I start with, that it's supposed to be an A2 survey. We do not have a survey, we have a site sketch. So it's missing all the requirements of an A2 survey, plus the details that are in our regulations.
Yep.
And I struggle with it because it's up to the applicant to provide this information, not for us to tell you what you missed. You're supposed to have this information as part of the package. And you start with the first one is it's supposed to have an A2 survey, and you don't have it. Now, you can ask for a waiver of that, and the commission can review it, but you have. You've just presented a sketch plan and has said that your engineer prepared it, but it's not certified to anything. Typically, when we see a special permit, we have signature lines from the engineer on there, or the surveyor, I'm sorry, the surveyor and the engineer on that plan. It's not there. Your plan's supposed to show 10-foot topographical information, contours. It's not there.
Okay,
So I'm struggling with it.
can I comment on that?
Go right ahead.
So when submitting this, I had a previous site plan done when I was buying the property and purchasing the property. And that's what I was told to give to
Okay.
the board
You
for
can be told,
application.
But our regulations clearly state what's required,
Sure,
and that's where I struggle with it.
okay,
Is that our application says you have to have an A2 survey. And if part of it is to be consistent with all of our applicants that come in front of us.
sure.
And all of them have to start with that A2 survey. And on some smaller lots, smaller projects, we might waive that. But this is a pretty intense use of a 2.6 acre parcel. So you really want the accuracy of that A2 survey, or at least a D survey. Aaron, you're probably more familiar with all the different categories of survey, but this just says it's a sketch plan.
It was certified by a surveyor and an
There is no
engineer.
certification on that plan. Certification is a seal, signed. There is no certification on that plan.
So I
There's
think,
a-
yeah,
Pretty sure there was a stamp.
Not on that plan.
Ben, I think the survey that you guys did to delineate property lines when you were doing a property transfer, I think probably was an A2, although I don't recall. And then this, with additional stuff sketched out, I think the surveyor didn't, or your surveyor engineer didn't, then recertify the revision.
Oh, when he added, the notations for the outdoor
Right,
spaces. So
right.
the original submission.
I think you're right. And so we could, put on the record that, but yeah, that basically is a survey of existing conditions, not proposed activity. And
Well, we
so,
come
yeah,
back-
you could either ask them to certify it or provide a waiver request.
Okay,
I'm referring to Article 5, Section 8, Special Permit Requirements, Section 2, A2 survey. I, location, dimension, and length of sightlines for each driveway or curb cut. There are no sightlines on any of the plans. Location, height, dimension of existing and proposed signage. There's nothing shown on the plan, which means you don't have any signs. And if you want to have a sign in the future, you're gonna have to come back through the special permit process and get approved for that. So typically, I try to tell applicants, some of the stuff you want to make sure is on there. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go through the whole process again for even a sign, which under our sign ordinance is pretty easy. But if it's part of a site plan, a special permit, you got to go back through the special permit plan. Location of existing or proposed outdoor storage or display areas, dumpsters and recycling bins. None of that's on there. How are you going to take care of the waste from your events? You have 100 people at an event, they're going to generate some waste. Section 3 of that says written approval from NDDH, Connecticut DEP, Connecticut Department of Health, WPCA. None of that's been provided. You talk about it, But we don't have any kind of a letter to the Northeast District Department of Health or a response from them saying we don't need to do anything, or we find the existing system is adequate for what's being proposed. Written approval from the Inland Wetlands Agency. I don't see that as part of the package. I'm not sure you need wetlands approval, but we don't even have something from the Wetlands Authority that says you're all set, you don't need our approval. There's no delineations of wetlands. From my site work, I'm not sure there are any wetlands, but that's not our jurisdiction. Wetlands Agency's jurisdiction. But we're supposed to have that information before we make a decision.
Can I just ask if the land use office has some of this on file, but we don't see it?
That's not our job.
I know,
That's the applicant's job.
but does the land use office have it? But we just aren't seeing it. That's all
I
I wanted
asked
to ask
today,
you.
I don't think there is anything from the from the Wetlands Commission. You can ask John.
Yeah, well, that's what I
I looked at
was.
the file today. I went in and I looked at the official file, and there is nothing from any of those groups.
Okay, I just wanted
Yeah,
to
no problem.
clarify that.
Right.
And
And
John,
to clarify from the land use office, yeah, you know, the requirements are what they are, and they can be waived. In the case of, you know, DOT, there's no new encroachment proposed, so DOT wouldn't be involved. But as Doug was suggesting, that, you know, there should be some physical reference to that, you know, no curb cut is proposed, no encroachment is proposed, therefore DOT is not, you know, requested to be involved. There are no wetlands on site, therefore, you know, wetlands, you know, review is not required. Like, these are statements, and, you know, they're hooking up to sewer, so, and DDH doesn't necessarily need to be involved in septic. Those are just statements that are missing, but they're, you know, Doug's pointing out completely legitimate, you know, sections of the regulations.
We're all supposed to have location of buffers. And if you go to the special permit decision process, one of the things that the commission has to ask is, how are we buffering this from the neighbors? You show no buffers on there. Your parking is immediately adjacent to the property line of a neighbor. No buffers. That's a lot.
I didn't think that you needed buffering on parking spots based on the last meeting. Is that correct, John?
It's not John's decision.
No.
It's the commission's decision.
Sorry,
sure.
I missed the question though, Ben.
When we had the last hearing
Yeah.
here, we were talking about parking and where it would be in association to other property lines.
Right.
Parking doesn't necessarily need to have buffers against other property lines, correct?
Well, parking in and of itself doesn't necessarily know, but, you know, activity does.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
parking spots can be along property lines. It's not a structure. So if that's the question.
Right, but I think if you ask the abutters, are they gonna be pleased with cars that are right on their property line at not 10 o'clock at night, moving in and out, all the lights coming into their property? They're probably gonna ask for buffers. It could be a landscaping buffer, it could be a fence,
Sure.
but that's really what the applicant needs to address, is how are you gonna minimize the impact on the abutters? I don't see anything in this application that says you've addressed any of the potential concerns that we've had at this public hearing of the impact on the neighbors.
Okay. Direct comments I can absolutely take and utilize for sure.
You need to revise your application to show exactly what you're expecting to do. Because right now, your application says that you can have 50 to 70 events, and it doesn't tell us what the type of events they are. Your request says that they can be music events, live music, 50 music events in South Woodstock, I think would make a significant impact on the property values in the neighborhood. Once you get that approval, we can't come back and tell you you're having too many music events. So if you don't want to have 50 music events, you need to change your application and say, we don't need that in there. But right now, the way it reads, you can have 50 events, 50 to 70 events of all those things that you've listed.
Sure.
Those are pretty high impact things. And I think you need to address those. Because the last thing you want is the commission to be addressing. Because from my point of view, the way I address them is I deny your application.
Sure.
And you don't, I'm trying not to get to that point where we have to come out and say deny. But you gotta listen to the comments that you've heard from the public hearings about deteriorating the property values in the neighborhood. People have tremendous concerns about traffic. I disagree with John. John tells me that because there's no new curb cuts, that you don't have to show sight lines and things like that. I'd like to have someone from Connecticut DOT tell me that. Because although you're not proposing new curb cuts, you're proposing a whole lot new volume of traffic in that area. That I'm not capable of doing it. Joseph, maybe you are a traffic engineer and you can ask those impacts, but how do we know that that's going to be safe there with that traffic light, with all of this new potential traffic coming in?
Well, I think that's what their chapel engineering is gonna have to. And that should be in their report.
Correct.
Yeah. The other question I had, you've made a request to the Baptist church again for parking.
Well, it was a formal request that we sent in.
Okay.
That was asked for at the last meeting. So I
Did they
said,
let you know when they were gonna respond?
we actually received a response. So there's no parking, that we can utilize at the Baptist church. But based on the design and layout here with the extra parking, I mean, we can have someone officially stamp it and do the suggestion of an A2 survey to get, more detail there. But I think that, and also the traffic study would adhere to and tell us what we're looking at, but I think that we would suffice for the parking of the events. And also with the offsite shuttles, I mean, that's very common at wedding venues, is from hotels, offsite shuttles of people.
But you did get a response from the Baptist
We did.
church. That was my
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
So why isn't that part of the record?
We just got it.
It needs to be part of the record.
Sure.
Question was asked, and now you're answering it, but you're only answering it upon a direct question. You already knew the answer. They said no.
On Wednesday. Yeah, yeah. We get it. I get it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Anybody
Mr.
else?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just for the record, John Guskowski, just in response to Doug Porter's comment about the DOT. It's not that I disagree about the necessity of the driveway being safe, but rather that the DOT does not necessarily have jurisdiction if new curb cuts or modifications to existing encroachments are not proposed. And this is not a major traffic generator, which is to say more than 200 parking spots or more than 100,000 square feet of new construction. DOT just doesn't get involved. It is not their purview. But certainly, the traffic study and turning movements that the Carbones have commissioned, would help to verify that safety element. But the DOT just doesn't, sort of respond where they're not, they don't have jurisdiction.
And John, as I said today with you, and I'll say it in the public hearing, that's great. I want to hear that from DOT. I would like to see the applicant send a letter to DOT saying this is our proposed use.
There is Doug, there's no reason for them to send a letter to DOT. They're not changing anything that is the DOT's jurisdiction.
Intensity of the use, John. I disagree.
Sure. Well, so every time someone on a state highway has another kid that has a car, do they have to send a letter to
We're not
DOT?
talking another kid, John. We're talking events that are going to.
Exactly. That's why they have a threshold: 200 parking spots or 100,000 new square feet. That's the threshold, Doug.
John, I just disagree with you, and I just want.
You disagree about the threshold?
Our regulation says we need to have a response from the Connecticut Department of Transportation. That they could just tell
when
you
applicable. It's
what
not
you're
applicable.
saying.
And I mean, they certainly could have a letter, a line in their application that says DOT not applicable, no new curb cut, not a major traffic generator. But that,
And then
the absence of that statement doesn't mean the DOT needs to be involved.
I'm just looking for that. We've called all the agencies that are involved, because right now, I gotta tell you, this application hasn't addressed any of those issues.
Are
And
you
here we are in the second public hearing.
Yeah.
we're coming up to timelines that we have to either extend the public hearing and get the applicant's permission to extend the public hearing, or close the public hearing and make a decision based on the information that's already been submitted, which is lacking.
Sure, that's absolutely correct.
Well, we just paid $6,000 for a traffic study, so I hope that's not the case.
Or,
I worry, and part of the reasons I'm bringing these up to you tonight is because to address some of these issues, you're gonna have to spend more money. But I still think if you go back to our special permit decision process, you haven't addressed the main issues, which is how are you going to limit the impact on the adjacent neighborhood? You haven't said anything about that. The people that have spoken to say they're very worried about the noise. You haven't said anything about how you're gonna address the noise. You're gonna say it's over at 10. We have letters from abutters saying, okay, yeah, the band stops at 10. That doesn't mean everyone leaves.
We can force people to leave the property.
It's not easy.
I mean, plenty of wedding venues certainly do it. I mean, the mansion at Bald Hill, for instance, I've been to multiple weddings there.
Okay, but the mansion on Bald Hill, and as mentioned in one of the letters from the abutters, and the other wedding venue in town have a lot more land. They're not on 2.6 acres. They don't have a neighbor's bedroom window 30 feet away from your area. That's a big impact. Now, and I live in East Woodstock. I think it's beautiful. We have a church in East Woodstock that plays bells twice a day. Joseph, do you know which church I'm talking
I
about?
think so, yeah.
I'm about a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile from that church. I can hear those bells twice a day. I think it's fabulous. It's one of the reasons I enjoy East Woodstock. But I've had neighbors complain about the bells. That's not heavy music 50 times a year, 30 feet from my property. That's a half a mile away. Aaron, you mentioned you've done wedding venues in your professional life. Noise is a big issue, is not?
It's usually the issue. If
And how do they typically address it?
you either have to limit the sound of the DJ in the tent, depending on how much buffer you have, but if you only have 30 or 50 feet, there's essentially nothing you can do other than put it inside.
Correct. And that's where it comes back to. You want to have an outdoor venue, but I'm not sure you can do that on that site and provide buffers to the neighbors. You may not have to look at an indoor venue if you want to be able to have live music. And I hate to be the one telling you this so late, but that's the real world. You have to be able to, not only you, but also our commission, we have to be able to address those issues of our decision process. And right now, I don't think you've addressed any of them. And I'm sorry, but I have to continue. I talked to John about this, and I think as a commission, we need to work with our consultant to see who is supposed to be bringing these things to the attention of the applicant. It's not my job to be doing it. I'm doing it because it hasn't been done.
Sure.
So we also adequate landscaping buffer requirements, lighting. There isn't a single word about lighting. It's pretty dark right now at 4 o'clock. Now it is December. I don't think you're going to be having weddings in December there outside, but you might be having them in September. And it gets dark. What are you providing for lighting for those people to safely exit your property at 10 o'clock? There isn't a single comment or a single thing on your plan that says anything about lighting. We got 8 pages of regulations about lighting. You haven't addressed a single one of those. And that's, I think, a big concern I have is safety of not only the abutters, but also for people in the area and the people that are coming to your venue. Go ahead.
I just want to ask if I see Control Point Associates.
Yeah.
Is that a consulting engineering firm that you're working with?
It was one that did the original survey of the property. And then they did a site sketch over for the proposal.
Okay. Sites for the proposal.
For the
So, you know,
proposal of the outdoor spaces and where everything would be on
okay.
the original. On the original survey that they did for the property back in August.
Okay, so you're not working with any consulting engineer or consultant reviewing the special permit applications in our zoning regulations?
At the current moment, no.
You're not, oh, okay, I think that's an important point Doug is making, that
Sure.
it's critical to go through point by point in the special permit application. As Doug is appropriately raising, to make sure all the components are either submitted or requests for waivers, which are appropriate,
Sure.
can be submitted to the commission. So anyway, I just wanted to check to see if there was a consultant or engineering.
I don't want to dominate the conversation tonight, but this has to happen. We have to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Our regulations require you have a conservation commission checklist. You haven't submitted it. It's in, so right now, when we review this, we're gonna say, you haven't provided us a conservation commission checklist. That gives us a reason to say no to your application. Again, it has to have a statement on potential offsite impacts and measures to address those impacts. And then you have to have a statement of how the application meets the special permit evaluation criteria. That's the applicant has to provide that. Yes, then we get to discuss it and say whether we agree or what we disagree with you. But you haven't done it, so right now, we're saying you can't address those issues. Since I went through all the regulations, I might as well.
Keep going.
The general, we're supposed to be looking at a lessening of congestion on the streets. Clearly, this doesn't provide a lessening of congestion on the streets. It's a major impact. Prevent overcrowding of the land. You have a lot of activities on a 2.6 acre parcel. The character of the zoning district. That's a big change in that district. With that tent being there, you don't actually anywhere in your application tell us the size of the tent. Now, you have talked about it with the fire marshal, but it's not on that plan anymore.
It's on the narrative,
The exact size?
40 by 60.
Okay. It's not shown on the plan. It's just that yellow area. Which is beyond 40 by 60. And part of my concern is we've had difficulties with other special permits. We have, and part of the reason, I'm the old guy here. I've been on this commission from different stages for a long time, on and off. But we had a problem with the shed guy over here next to the Young's farm. We made him move his sheds back so that he was 75 feet off the property line. Those sheds weren't running live music. They were just sheds. And we had to go back and have him, I think through an enforcement action.
It's the state highway required the 75-foot buffer, yeah.
Did that to sheds that don't make any noise. What do we do with a party that's going on 50 times a year, 30 feet from the neighbor's property line? I also think you need to show on your site plan, which if you talk to if you give this information to your site engineer, he'll put them on. It should show the setbacks. Even though you're not building anything new, you should be demonstrating to us that you're not within those setbacks anywhere. I really worry about your porta potties. And I really would like to have a letter from Northeast District Department of Health or the WPCA to say that that's acceptable. Where are they going to be put? That's not shown on your plan, correct?
No, because it wasn't originally a thought for porta potties. Because we figured that the capacity would be met, but then when we had WPCA speak here, it was recognized that it might not actually.
The WPCA did not speak to you.
Someone referred to the allowance of how many gallons. I don't.
We do, again, we don't have a letter that you submitted to the WPCA asking for their approval of this use on the property. So we have no official record on that.
Okay.
We may have had someone from the audience mention something, but that's different than having an official response.
Sure.
I think I'm done. I'm sorry to put you through this, but it's better for us to tell you now.
Yeah.
Than to tell you, go for another special meeting, and then we finish our discussions, and then the commission goes into their deliberations and say, well, he didn't provide us a conservation checklist, he didn't give us an A2 survey, he didn't do this. Now what?
Right. Thank you.
I have, with your frequency and time, I mean, it says start no earlier than 9 and end at 10. But that, I mean, that could be midweek, they could go to 10 o'clock. You got neighbors that have children and families and stuff, they might want something going till 10 o'clock on a weekday. I mean, that's kind of,
Right,
I mean, that's too much.
we can revise that.
But it's not.
Yeah.
You know, this is. And just the number of events, that's something going on every weekend. You know. Where it's not, I'm thinking of just the quality of life of the neighborhood, and that's something going on every weekend, and there's a lot of people live, they're gonna be able to hear that noise. That's gonna go, just your immediate neighbors, but that whole, we call it lingering village area is gonna be affected by that. And I just think, you know, just the number of events in that 7-month period, that's something every weekend. I mean, if it goes, and in that, just if, I mean, you guys may be perfectly respectful and not have, we might not have an issue with you, but if you sell the property and somebody else comes in, they're gonna go by they can go to the same rules that are here, and they could do something till 10 o'clock twice a weekend. They could do, it could be just, I think it's just too much. That's, there's no limits, and the number of large events and just the noise, and you know, where you're having your parking behind a barn is lights are gonna be shining through people's houses, headlights.
I think in our profession, we're used to having counters. Do you guys come back and counter us? In terms
No,
of saying
no.
X amount?
No.
No.
You submit what you think is gonna work for you on your property, and then we respond to it.
Okay.
It's not a negotiation.
And I don't know if you've had the opportunity to go through the zoning regulations for a special permit, but one of the items is the special permit decisions, which is amongst the commission. And once the commission has found the proposed use or activity meets all of the following criteria, the following I'll mention, special permit shall be approved or approved with modifications. And some of the conditions that the commission will have to go through one by one is it in compliance with zoning regulations. Another one is will it generate minimal offsite adverse impacts on the surrounding area, including but not limited to adverse impacts on the environment, the character of the area, including any natural and historical and cultural. So these are questions we will have to ask amongst ourselves, and some of them are somewhat subjective, but they'll be based on information that we get from applicants. And I think you've been hearing that there's a significant amount of concern as we might address some of these questions. And that's near the end of the whole process.
Understood, okay. So to speak to your comments, David, you'd like to see more delineations regarding when events are happening, what type of events are happening. Say, okay, Monday through Friday, events are only until dark or dusk. And you make a statement of it's this amount of the
I'm
capacity,
just saying that.
no weddings or whatever it may be.
Issues that I personally have with this application.
Sure.
That's, but you know, if you go through that application, you, as Doug mentioned, you're missing a lot of stuff. And just the lines, the little hashtags drawn on the map to where parking is. One thing, we don't have that in front of us. It's hard to see on the map. So I just, and once again, you know, you're talking cars moving around later at night. And it's always gonna, you know, no matter what time of year, it's always gonna be dark at 10 o'clock. So headlights are gonna be on, there's gonna be noise. And that's in your neighbor's backyard, behind the barn. You know, within not very many feet from their house where the property line is. So these are significant, you know, events that will affect the neighborhood, and that's one of our concerns. Not that it's, you know, it's just the scale is more than that it's too much and too small of an area.
Sure.
So my reaction on doing the site visit and seeing what was being asked for is, I'm not even sure that any weddings would be appropriate for this space based on what I saw. The adjoining property would be essentially destroyed by having even 1 or 2 or 3 weddings with 100 or 150 people. I mean, in the example of a neighbor having a wedding for their daughter is sort of acceptable and people put up with it, but having this as a commercial enterprise, I think would be really hard for, I mean, the property next door, the one behind you, would be essentially destroyed by this. And I have a big problem with that. I just think it's, so I'm excited by having a commercial use for this property. I think there is a potential for commercial use. I think weddings, even 5 weddings, would be too much.
Sure.
Based on my,
Can you define destroyed for me?
well, the quality of life of living behind a wedding, an official wedding venue would be unbelievably unpleasant. And I imagine myself living in that house next to this wedding venue. I said, there's no way I want it.
We'll buy it.
Well, that's a different story. I mean, that's, you know, that's a completely different story, but
I think you'd be surprised with the amount of inquiries that we have already for all of these weddings, which we
that's what,
couldn't
I'm
even
sure that's
respond to.
wonderful. Yeah, I would be excited to see a viable, thriving wedding with proper parking and it didn't adversely affect the neighbors in the neighborhood. I think it'd be wonderful. And, you know, please. I was so excited when you guys were coming before us and I sort of thought about this property and then going to see it was really a disappointment for me. I'm sorry.
John,
Yes, sir.
John?
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
The applicant had a question, Doug answered it, had to do with some sort of negotiation or flexibility with our approval.
Mhm.
Can you just clarify something? If the applicants come in and say, I'm just making this up, totally theoretical, we want a maximum of 100 people at a time, and that's what they're proposing. Is it within P&Z's authority to reduce that to 50, let's say? And if so, do we need some sort of reason, justification, input from the audience, or like somebody like yourself to reduce a number?
Sure. So to answer the first question about the commission's authority to reduce the number, if it's a special permit process, the answer is yes. A special permit is discretionary, and you are guided by the decision-making criteria that Joe Adaletta had read in part. That if you believe that the operation as proposed will generate negative externalities or issues off-site, that can be mitigated by your reasonable conditions on it. So if you determine in your collective wisdom that 100 events or 100 people or something like that is too impactful, you absolutely have the authority to say, we believe that 50 is less and will better meet the regulations, the intent of the plan of conservation and development, public health, safety, welfare, et cetera, and can include that as a condition. You do not have that authority with a site plan or other administrative. So for instance, a subdivision that are administrative reviews, you don't have that sort of conditional leeway. And as far as where you get the information, like how you pick 50 versus 100, is it based on, science? Is it based on public input? It is based on, some sort of compromise worked out. That's a little bit more open-ended. Ideally you'd be working with facts as opposed to unsupported, subjective emotion. But you do have a lot of leeway, particularly when you are focused on public health, safety, and welfare, and the overall intent of the plan of conservation and development.
Great,
Yeah,
thanks, John.
sure.
Dwight, I can't see you on the screen. Do you have any input?
I'm just kind of like listening here, but I think Doug brought up a lot of good points.
Okay, thank you. I can't see if you're, so I just want to make sure that I
Yeah,
wasn't missing.
I apologize. My camera doesn't work that well.
No, well, we can't, you're not showing up on my screen, so I can't see you. So it's not your camera isn't the issue. Do we have any more comments from members? Aaron, sorry.
John, just a question about timelines and deadlines for the application to submit additional items. So this is the second time we've had the public hearing. How long can this be extended, and is there a deadline for when the applicant can submit additional items for us to review before we make a decision?
Yes. So the answer to the second part, which is there a deadline for the applicant to submit new information? The answer is yes. It's the close of the public hearing process. As for where we stand in that public hearing process, the public hearing was opened last month, I believe November 20th, for this, and needs to close, barring any extensions granted by the applicant, within 35 days. So we're within a couple of days of the expiration of the standard 35-day period. However, the applicant can grant the commission up to an additional 65 days at any point in the review process, the application review process. And so, the applicant, should they choose to, and they've already indicated that they're still awaiting a traffic study pending in January. They basically have 2 months of extensions to grant the commission should they wish. But once the hearing is closed, that is it for new information from the public or the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Sid, you had your hand up?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about numbers. I just wanted to throw a few things out. Other wedding venues in the area, the Inn at Woodstock Hill is on 15 acres. And Line Master grant the whole property, all 4 parcels, until it's about 90 acres. In comparison to the applicant's 2 to 3 acres that we're viewing now. The other figures I just want to put out for comparison is we had a landowner request approval for a wedding venue about a year or so ago. More remote area of town. He had about 2 or 3 neighbors within a quarter-mile radius. If you apply that same quarter-mile radius to where the applicant is proposing, there's about 50 houses or businesses. About 2/3 are homes, about 1/3 are businesses. So I just wanted to throw those out there for comparison.
I'll also add on to that wedding venue, we did not allow them to have amplified or live music.
Yes, Doug?
Yeah, and I'm sorry to continue to come back, but we're supposed to have this discussion in public. So I need to have it. And Aaron, you a sound engineer?
Yes.
Okay. Help me with this. Our regulations say performance standards A1, A3, no noise shall be permitted beyond the boundaries of the lot or parcel in excess of noise levels permitted by the state or federal laws or regulations. I always hear that it's difficult to enforce noise regulation. How do you lead, with your expertise, how would you see this applicant meeting that requirement?
They would have to hire an acoustical consultant who does a sound study to show that what they're proposing will comply with, it would be the state regulation, because there's no local,
right,
and there's no federal either, so it'd be the state regulation. They would have to show, and the sound study would have to prove that what they are planning to do with either the DJ or the live band what the property line levels are gonna be and what the levels will be at the house and how they would get them to be compliant with the state regulation.
I hate to tell you, you're gonna have to spend more money, but that's our regulation. The applicant has to demonstrate to us that the noise levels are gonna be within what's permitted by the state. I think it's gonna be difficult to do because you're so close to that property line. But that's what we have engineers for. As I always say, particularly with septic systems, they'll design a septic system that'll float. They can give them enough money, they'll come up with a method of working. I'm not sure I want to live downstream from them. That's what you gotta be able to meet that standard, because that's right in our performance standards.
Maybe I want to let we can,
I think one of the things that's gotta be noted here is this goes with land.
Yeah.
And we can make you jump through all kinds of hoops, we can meet everything and approve it, but the next person, we don't get to jump through any hoops with. And they just got it, and they can do what, you know, maybe they can't do what they're supposed to stay within parameters, but you can do things at a good faith level and say, well, we won't do that. But the next guy may not be that way. So we have to be very cautious here as to what we approve. You know, some of the permits that we have approved, the public probably weren't happy with us, but they met the criteria that we asked them for, and it worked. And in all good faith, we granted it. But sometimes it's the other way around. So, you know, we have to be very careful as a commission to see to it that does not happen.
I'm gonna look at community, see if there's any community comments, and then we can come back if there's any more commissioner comments. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a comment at this public hearing? Please stand up and state your name, if you can. I mean, if you can stand up.
Alice Louisa, I live at 333 Route 169, which is the L abutting the property. I have a letter. The last meeting, I was really unaware of everything being proposed. I've had a chance to think about it. It's up to you whether you want me to read it or just submit it.
Okay. You can either read it or just kind of go over whatever you wish to do. If you wish to read it in, that would be fine. If you want to just go over it.
It's a dramatic reading.
Let's do it.
Dear members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm writing to formally express my concern regarding the application by my neighbor at 6 and 8 Stonebridge Road to convert their property into an event venue hosting approximately 50 to 70 events per year, including weddings and other large gatherings on the weekends with attendance at the other meeting up to 200 people. My property directly abuts the proposed venue with no meaningful land buffer between our properties. As a result, the impacts of this proposal will be felt immediately and significantly on my home and quality of life. I respectfully ask the Commission to consider the following issues as part of its review. Number one, noise and activity impacts. Although the application indicates that bands and DJs would end at approximately 10 p.m., events of this scale typically generate continued noise from guests socializing outdoors, vehicles departing, engines idling, and post-event cleanup. Many of the proposed events would occur outdoors during late spring, summer, early fall, resulting in recurring disturbances during times when residents typically use their homes and outdoor spaces. Number two, visual and aesthetic impacts. Currently, a dumpster and refuse area on the neighboring property are significantly visible from my kitchen window and the picture window in my living room. According to the proposal, this area directly adjacent to my property will be utilized as event parking. In addition, the owners indicated at the site visit that they have plans to expand parking further into the area that runs directly up to my driveway. These changes would significantly degrade the visual character of my property by introducing vehicle congestion, headlights, and frequent activity immediately adjacent to my residence. Number three, lack of buffering and disproportionate impact. There is no land buffer, wooded separation, or meaningful setback between my yard and the proposed venue operations. This distinguishes the proposal from other event venues within approximately 1 mile of my home, which own substantial acreage and provide natural buffering that prevents negative impacts to neighboring properties. Without such buffering, the impacts here would be substantially greater. Number 4, cumulative impact of event frequency. The proposed 50 to 70 events per year represent multiple events each weekend during peak seasons. When considered cumulatively, the impacts of noise, traffic, lighting, and parking present a long-term intensification of use, not an occasional or incidental activity. Number 5, compatibility with residential and current rural character. The scale and frequency of large commercial events raise serious concerns about compatibility with the surrounding residential and rural character of the neighborhood. This proposal represents a significant change in use that is inconsistent with the established expectations of nearby homeowners. Number 6, impact on family use, property value, and neighborhood suitability. I purchased my home specifically so my 3 sons could attend Woodstock schools and benefit from the quality education and stable residential environment the community provides. My home is the perfect starter home, the type of property typically sought by families looking for a quiet, predictable neighborhood in which to raise children. The introduction of a high-frequency event venue immediately next door with outdoor weddings, large crowds, amplified sound, and parking directly abutting the property undermines those qualities. This will materially reduce both the usability and marketability of the property for families and negatively affect its value. Number 7, precedent for expansion and intensification. I'm also concerned about the precedent this application could establish. The property includes a barn located near my property line, and I am concerned that it could be converted in the future to support indoor events, further intensifying use and extending activity into additional seasons. 8, right-of-way and utility access concerns. There's an existing electric utility right-of-way that runs through my property to serve the barn on the applicant's land. This right-of-way was granted to support a private, residential, or agricultural use, not a commercial event venue. A change in use that increases electrical demand, maintenance activity, or commercial reliance on this right-of-way raises concerns about scope, intent, and potential future impacts to my property. Number 9, summary and request. In summary, the absence of buffering, the scale and frequency of events, the cumulative impacts over time, concerns about future expansion, and the incompatibility with adjacent residential use all raise serious questions about whether this proposal is appropriate for this location. Absent substantial and forcible protections that meaningfully mitigate these impacts, I request that the commission deny the application in order to preserve the residential character of the neighborhood and protect the reasonable use and enjoyment of adjacent properties. Thank you for your time and consideration. I respectfully request that this letter be entered into the public record for this application. Sincerely, Allison Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Nicole Perry, 42 Rosen Park Road. A question on this. So there's short-term rental and there's event use. Can you explain to me that when the short-term rental was permitted? So there's something that existed already for short-term rental. So this is already like capacity that we're talking about just for having guests. There's 6 rooms and then the cottage, right?
I think it was used as like an Airbnb or a bed and breakfast at one time.
But it was owner occupied, correct? Because there's a distinction between the two. It's a business if it's not owner occupied. So I'd actually like to back up and not outside of the event, even just having a rental like that in that capacity can bring a lot of different activity than we've experienced in that area.
Well, the short-term rentals is an issue we've discussed. I think it's with the selectmen now and they're drafting the ordinance. But right now, short-term rentals are allowed and are being done in town.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I don't know if this clarifies anything, but yeah, short-term rentals are currently unregulated as long as the property in question continues to function essentially as a single-family residence. Anything beyond, if you're running a multi-tenant inn, a hotel that is not functioning as a single family residence, then that is distinct. But yeah, short-term rentals are allowed just as you would be allowed to rent your property, if for a year or 6 months or a month, as long as it functions as a single family residence.
Do you know if that had a history of being used as an Airbnb or a bed and breakfast? I mean, not, but actual bed and breakfast at one time?
Mr. Chair, I recall that.
Yes, Dwight, go ahead.
I do recall that property being used as a bed and breakfast.
Is there a town record of a special permit for that?
I don't think it required a special permit.
It doesn't?
And
Can check to see in the town records if there's a record as a bed and breakfast. Because I think, John, those are required to have permits for bed and breakfast.
yeah, a bed and breakfast or a country inn would be considered special permit uses. And I don't recall that there's a special permit on file for that. It's also possible that preceded the use of that property preceded 1992 when full zoning went into effect. So it may have been in that sense grandfathered.
Pardon me?
It's residential zoning.
Yes. But the whole town is,
Well, it's community district. Residential and agriculture are as of right, and anything else is generally by a special permit or grandfathered.
So we don't know if we have a special permit and we're assuming it's grandfathered, or don't mind me, I'm just trying to understand this. Because this is a bigger scale than, hey, I have like a spare, cottage,
Right.
like it's just a pool house being rented. This is a lot more people and there's no one else there. It's independent.
Right. This is why they're coming in for a special permit. That's why we're here.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's for the event, though. We've only talked about the event. Sorry, George.
Well, their special permit application also includes the use of the property as a country inn, and for lodging, for wedding guests and other things like that. So there's multiple components of the special permit. The fact that the public and the commission is focused primarily on the events does not mean that they did not also request permission for the other things.
yes, Doug.
Can we ask our planner to review the records to see if there was a bed and breakfast permit for that property?
Sure, I'll double check. Sure.
Bed and breakfasts are allowed by right in the community without a
think you
special
have-
permit.
No, you still need a permit,
Still need a permit, not a special
not a
permit.
special, right?
Okay.
We can just check the records to see
If there's a permit in the past for
if
that.
there's any kind of permit or any kind of record of this place being used as a
B&B or-
B&B is, I think, Airbnb or B&B is probably more appropriate.
Breakfast there, so they had to have some kind.
But the thing, can I speak?
Yeah.
John, but also everyone. Airbnb short-term rental is not bed and breakfast.
Yes,
Right.
so I'm trying to.
That's the distinction.
Yes, yeah, that's a distinction. So I mean, I think it was used as a bed and breakfast, not an Airbnb. This was actually before Airbnb.
Those
was
there
really-
and get breakfast.
Yeah, I never went there for breakfast, but at one time. When was that?
It was in the eighties.
Yeah,
Yes, Doug.
we're just looking to get the history so that when the public asks us that, we can answer it. We don't have any regulations about Airbnb. We've worked on them, but we haven't gotten to a conclusion because it's a difficult area to address. But we did have regulations with bed and breakfasts, so we can at least see if that shows, so that we can have some use of that property besides as a single family home.
And that we're asking the CEO to look up. Not
So we are
Yep.
checking if there was a permit for a
Did I
bed and
hear-
breakfast.
Accurately, that there's something being worked on to have ordinances around it.
for
Working on an
Airbnb.
ordinance for
Airbnb.
Airbnb.
Timing on that, because it'd be,
You'd have to
they're
check.
very strict in other towns, so
Yes.
it's concerning not to have one here just yet.
You'll have to check with the first selectman, the selectman's
Okay.
office. Because we discussed it and it was, better dealt with through ordinances than planning and zoning, because ordinances.
Yeah.
If we put something in, things can be grandfathered in. If it's an ordinance, then they can say anybody that's doing it has to register. So it looks back, whereas we can't really look back.
Okay, appreciate that. So if we can validate the permit on that,
Yeah,
or something,
yeah,
that's
we're-
great.
We'll,
On the request, though, this is for activity on a scenic road, not a special permit. I think we're talking about special permit here, though. And it
I think
also,
that, yeah, that box was mischecked. It should be special permit, not activity on scenic road.
so that has that been updated in the amendment that you have online? Okay.
No, that's something that we need to adjust.
Okay, and the other is, and this is a stickler for me, that it is not owner occupied. This is a pretty large, just for the rental, I'm not even talking about event, just for the rentals, this is a large size property. Pool parties of however many people, we're not even talking about the weddings, that is a concern for the area. And that's where I'd particularly be concerned for ordinances, so I'm asking for us to walk before we run. And let's make sure that we have a reasonable venue for rental. No problem with having it rental, but let's have some boundaries to it so that it's livable for everyone. Because they're not there.
I'm confused where we're going from special permit and this to a totally different discussion with the public. I don't think she's
We're-
aligning with the same exact
we're-
thing.
This is time for the public to ask any questions they want on this property.
I didn't know if it was about just a special permit in general, is what I'm asking.
But she's talking about the property and what's gonna be permitted there. That's her question, and that's her concern.
Okay,
Um,
okay, yeah, just clarification, I didn't really line up for me.
well, I mean, she's talking about all the things that you wanna do here. That's is an entirely appropriate question.
Are you talking in regards to the permit being approved for the rentals or the rentals happening if the permit is?
Short-term rental, so outside of events, it talks about short-term rental. And it's 6 bedrooms, so 12 people, 14 people, if you have 2 more in the other cottage. That's a sizable amount of people for guests. So just checking on the permitting on, because it said it's new business with pre-existing business was. And so I just don't know, we didn't experience that before. So I just wanted to understand what the pre-existing, or is this actually new?
I got what you're saying. I get what you're saying now.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I
It
would
was
just-
previously used as a bed and breakfast. People on the commission have actually gone to breakfast there. So that's the previous use.
Yeah.
And this special permit is much beyond bed and breakfast.
I would just note one more thing, is that they're already advertising it for an event venue on Verbo. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's overarching, like, we didn't approve this yet.
We are not accepting any weddings or parties.
It's promoted on here that says
It's a short-term rental
celebrations, weddings,
in terms of,
it's on there, I just printed it out as of today. So events allowed, family gatherings, birthday parties and weddings.
Hosting guests for weddings is different than hosting a wedding.
It says it under events, not stay. Okay, you know and I know.
I don't have recollection of that, to be honest, to be clear. Yeah.
Say events allowed.
I see that.
Yeah. You posted it.
I wonder if that's,
It doesn't
check mark for it, but yeah, right.
So that. That's okay, thank you. Thank you very much. You have anything else?
It's a beautiful place. Love what you guys are doing. It's not, but let's just try to do what can work for all of us.
Anybody else have any comments?
So I would like to, Mike Bohannon, 28 Rosenpark Road. I'm their adjacent neighbor. I would like to touch on my neighbor's concerns with the Airbnb. With the pool house being rented out as an Airbnb. My feeling is that the pool is considered a non-residential structure and should abide by certain boundary rules. And I know for a fact that that entire area, as well as the pool, is well within 20 feet of my property boundary. And I definitely feel like that's a concern as far as an event area or an Airbnb establishment right on my property boundary. And with no, no regulations as far as Airbnb goes in town, I do think it's important that it's something that we do address.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, there were two emails that came in following last month's hearing that are on the record. I can read them if you'd like. I can just note that one came in from Angelina Tortis on Tuesday, November 25th, and the other from Gwen Glass today, Thursday, December 18th. And I'd be happy to put those on the screen or read them at your discretion.
Well, can you put them on the screen and see if we can read them? Please. Well, that's not going to be open, right?
So this one is from Angelina Tortis or Tortis, I don't know how to pronounce it, from 25th. Again, I can read this. This is in the public hearing folder and also on the website. These were posted this afternoon.
John, do they bring up any new points in the letters that haven't been already addressed in terms of lighting, noise, impact on the neighborhood?
The first one doesn't. It elaborates some of the concerns more specifically. I would say it doesn't break new ground in this sense. That with apologies to Jeffrey Page and Angelina Tortis, the neighbor impacts, buffering, noise, traffic, waste is addressed. The second one that was submitted today, written yesterday by Gwen Glass, does cover new ground. This is submitted by a resident of Woodstock that also happens to be the mother of the applicant, and was providing a character reference. So this is not something you'd heard from the neighbors before.
Both of them are in the public record, which I think is great. I don't think we're gonna close the public hearing tonight, so that's available for everyone. But I did make a note on Jeff Page's, just so his concerns for large outdoor events are not compatible with the neighborhood, noise and lack of parking, guests walking the road from off-site parking, and porta johns and light pollution. Those were the highlights. I know Jeff is here to summarize and I think those issues have been brought to the commission's attention. And then, following up with what Sid said, existing wedding venues have much larger sites with buffers and adequate on-site parking. And then he goes on to say this project will not provide any additional tax revenue to the town since there are no new buildings being proposed. And you read the letter, you got a character reference, which is but it's on the public record.
Anybody else in the public that would like to speak? Do we have any more comments from commissioners?
Well, given the need for more information, I would suggest we continue the public hearings.
Well, we have to have the
request for an extension from the applicant.
Request to extend.
Yes.
The full allotted amount of time, was it 60 days, John?
You have up to 65 days.
So,
is that an official request to extend the public hearing from the applicant?
Yes.
We normally like to get it in writing and hopefully.
so it's
Right there.
to the
Great.
minutes.
So we can put it into the official record.
Sure.
Right.
Do you want to? When do you think you can have everything together? Do you want to do it the third week of January or the second week of January?
It would be the second meeting of January would be the 22nd, which is technically the 4th because the first Monday is New Year's Day. So
Yeah.
your meetings in January are the 8th and the 22nd.
Yeah, okay. You want to go to the 22nd?
Sure.
And then that will give you more room. Does that work for you guys? That'll give you more room. You need to extend it another. If you would like to extend it again. Or that would be giving you more time to respond.
That works.
Yeah. And I think it's critical to go through the zoning regulations line by line, as Doug highlighted, to see that it's not just for us, but it's to be in the permanent file for this application.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so do we need to vote on continuing the?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that would be good. The motion would be at the request of the applicant to extend the hearing, and then at so on to the 22nd of January.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I make that motion.
Second.
Alfred, do you have that? Okay.
Hey, can I say one more thing before?
Well, we can go to discussion. So now we're going to, the first thing we'll have discussion, so.
Okay. I really think you should address the sound or noise issue because that's one of the big things here. And if it's not addressed, it's not gonna help your cause. So I highly suggest either hiring an acoustical consultant to, do a study saying, here's the impacts. Because I have a feeling if you don't do that, it's not gonna be. Noise is gonna be a very, very big issue here, and it's even with the commission and the neighbors understanding the impact, it's significant. And you are gonna have to show that you can do something to reduce it so that it's acceptable. And I mean, I've been doing acoustical work for 20+ years, and the distance that you have between where your tent and your DJ is and the neighbors, it's almost incompatible to do what you want to do without moving it inside. So somehow you have to let people know how you're going to address that, but it's going to be very difficult to make it work for what you want to do and what the town and the neighbors are going to be able to deal with.
Need more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That was an aye, right, Dwight?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we got you. You just came in when I was asking for it. Okay, so we're all in favor. So moved. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Business, the application number 667-009-025 that has been extended, so is that a moot point, or do we need to have a vote to extend?
No, you can table, I would say maybe a simple vote to table discussion until after the hearing closes.
Okay, so we table that till after the hearing closes. Now we're up to home occupations.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I believe you missed new business.
New business. Oh, I'm sorry, new business. Did you have something came in, right, John?
Yes, and I believe it's on your we sent out a revised agenda. It's on the screen right now. This is a proposed lot line adjustment of 3 existing subdivision lots off of Route 171. I'll show let's see if we can do a rotated view. This is 171. On the left of the screen is Perrin Road. These are sort of lots that have frontage on 171, but kind of open up in the back. They're 3 fairly large lots. I'm going to stop my share screen because this is more of a conversation than an application review. I believe in my email that forwarded this to you, I noted that this is a lot line adjustment that does not change the number of lots nor the legal conformity of any of the lots, nor any town road, nor any town property. And for those of you who recall, before I was brought on as a consultant back in June, I had a meeting with you folks, and we talked about a couple of issues that would be coming up, and this is one of them. Your current subdivision regulations require that modifications to previously approved subdivisions need to submit a new application. And to a certain extent, that is a requirement that is not statutorily supported. If subdivisions or re-subdivisions wish to make changes that increases the number of lots, that changes road configuration, or that changes town ownership, like open space or easement areas and things like that, those require reconsideration by the commission. But if those factors are not in play, no new lots are being created, no town property is being affected, and road configuration is not being changed, that is not statutorily a subdivision, and therefore it is not the authority of the planning commission to require review. It is certainly within the purview of the zoning regulations to ensure that any adjustment of property results in full conformity or increased conformity with the zoning regulations. But that is a zoning matter. It is not a subdivision or planning matter. We were essentially, since I was brought back in to work with the town, have sort of been waiting for one of these to come up as essentially as a demonstration case. I had the applicant fill out the paperwork, did not charge them a fee, and intended to allow this to be a point of discussion to indicate that that portion of your subdivision regulations should be adjusted to, again, deal with only those lot line adjustments or modifications to previously approved subdivisions that trigger the statutory definition of subdivision or re-subdivision. In this case, this is strictly a zoning matter. And I did include in the documentation of this, the email exchange, and I've had this conversation over years with Attorney Roberts, and also with Delia Fay, who disagreed. But I shared this proposed lot line adjustment with Attorney Roberts and asked him to confirm that this was not, in fact, a subdivision as defined by the statutes, therefore not the purview of the Planning Commission in their authority to approve or deny this. This is merely a zoning matter, and this sort of zoning matter, which is to say basic compliance with the zoning regulations, is something that you've delegated to the zoning enforcement officer forever. Now, it's certainly of interest to the commission to be aware of lot lines moving around, but insofar as it does not trigger a subdivision or re-subdivision, this is not the authority of the Planning Commission. So what I'm suggesting this evening is this is, barring some change in the statutes or reinterpretation by your town attorney, this is the sort of application that will not be coming as a formal application to the Planning and Zoning Commission going forward, because this is not up to you to decide.
John?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why is this even a zoning issue? I think I read in this particular case, it meets the frontage requirements, it meets the acreage requirements.
Right. Well, so someone needs to look at it and say, yes, it meets. And that's it. That's it. So I would just need to look at, I basically look at the Mylars in every other town we work for. We basically do a quick check of the Mylars to make sure that they're not inadvertently or advertently trying to create a nonconformity. But that's the only check that is necessary.
And I'd like to ask one follow-up question, John.
Sure.
Thinking about frontage, if there's not enough frontage are we allowed, and then if so, who reviews a further reduction below this regulations in frontage, or a change in frontage if it's not conforming and it becomes either less or more non-conforming? Do we see that? Does it matter? What are your thoughts?
So if so your frontage is fairly flexible. I mean, you have a standard lot, frontage, but you also have rear lots and interior lots, zoning compliance for those, as long as there's, easements and access and that sort of thing. But if there is an existing issue of conformity, like it's a pre-existing lot somehow, and they're changing frontage or they're changing acreage to make it less conforming, or I would say, I'm sorry, not less conforming, more non-conforming, then that would need a variance. And that would go to ZBA.
I got you. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Dave, yes, Doug.
Question,
1 second, Doug,
okay,
first.
Right, John, and referring to our subdivision regulations, definitions, page 25, re-subdivision.
Page 25.
I may have an older subdivision book. Mine says effective date 2/15/2019.
I've got the last amendment 2024. I can put it up on the screen.
So it's just under R in the definitions.
Okay, hang on.
Look and take a look at re-subdivision. It was on page 25 plus or minus.
Re-subdivision. A change of a map of an approved or recorded. Yeah, this tracks the well, it starts to track the statute. A change in map of an approved or recorded subdivision or re-subdivision if such change A affects any street layout shown on such map, B affects any area reserved therein for public use, or C diminishes the size of any lot shown thereon and creates an additional building lot if any of the lots shown thereon have been conveyed after the approval or recording of such map. Is that what you see on yours?
Is that a correct definition?
That tracks the state statute. I'm going to switch my screen here real quickly. This is section 8-18 of the general statutes, and that language, the ABC, tracks exactly.
Okay, great. Then I disagree with you that.
All right, explain, please, if you would explain why.
Change. 1 second. This property line change creates another building lot. Because the original property had 3 lots, but one of them didn't have frontage. So therefore it wasn't a building lot. Now with this change, we create 3 lots that now have frontage. So you've created a third building lot.
Unless the original property subdivision said this is not a building lot by reason of no frontage, a lot doesn't have to have frontage according to your zoning and subdivision regulations, as long as there is an easement accessing it.
I'm not sure I agree with you on that, John. It's got no frontage. So it does not have an easement on there to show access. And we'd have to probably go back to the original subdivision and see what that third lot was considered. I know it used to be standard for them on for example, 3-lot subdivision to show 2 lots as building lots and the third one is just excess land.
Mm-hmm. All these lots have subdivision lot numbers and are identified by the assessor as residential lots.
Even if it has
with no frontage? I don't know, but then it comes into a zoning issue because it has no frontage. How does it meet our zoning regulations to get as a building?
You'd have to ask the Planning and Zoning Commission when they approve the subdivision.
Okay, well, I guess we have to go back to see when that subdivision was approved.
I would say
not really, because what they're proposing right now is conforming.
But we don't know what was originally approved. Do you know when, John, when it was approved? Is it any note on that map? And I gotta tell you, I have no difficulty with what they're proposing. I have more difficulty
Well,
in what you're telling us that, we don't have the jurisdiction to look at it, when I think our regulations say because they created additional building lot, we do. Now, you may be right and say that it was already
Mhm.
created as a building lot, and I'm just looking for support for that.
Sure. Well, I can give you that documentation if you'd like.
If a lot does not conform to our zoning, I think can still be buildable if they take it through the court system. I think that landlocked landowner will probably win and get some right of way through some other property. Now, it's an expensive roundabout way of getting it buildable, but there's almost two sets of, you know, there's state reg and then our local regs.
But it also depends on who created that issue,
So then,
who created that, non-conformity. If the applicant did it, then we're not at fault.
right.
You know, if their original subdivision showed two building lots and one was excess land, they can't come back and say that's a building lot now. They have to go through the process to demonstrate it's a building lot.
Correct. Right. That's exactly correct. And you will actually have an applicant in the next couple of months off of Joy Road who is looking to take a piece of a previous subdivision that was specifically listed as not a building lot or for conservation purposes, and they're looking to get that reversed. That is an actual revision to an approved subdivision that you guys would have to review. But I have no indication that there was anything other than 3 legitimate residential lots here that they're moving the lot lines around on.
Do you have any idea when that subdivision was done, John?
And the scan here is not, the scan we have on this is not great. It's, if you guys, I think Dave has a copy of the maps and his folder
Yes.
there.
Right.
It looks like it is notes
99?
3 or 99 might sound right. But in on the survey notes on sheet 1, it looks like there's some notes about when it was originally subdivided.
1989. So
Subdivision plan was originally 89.
So that predates the regulations.
No.
No, it was 82, I think, wasn't it?
No, 92. It's land use regulations went into effect in 87. Full zoning went into effect in 92.
All of them?
I'm sorry?
Subdivisions and regulations in the town of Woodstock have been
Oh,
in
no,
place.
Right. Right. That's true, but there was no minimum lot size or other zoning standards for that.
Correct. But
Right.
if
So
we could just
there was no such thing as non-conforming in that case, Doug.
Correct. If we could just research that, John, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Again,
and which again would be the responsibility of the zoning officer to sign off on conformity.
I knew the previous landowner, but I just didn't know they were that big purchase.
Yeah, so this they're expanding.
Well, I'm asking you to verify that it's not a re-subdivision.
Yes.
And you come back and tell us it's not a
Yes.
re-subdivision, then we're all set.
I agree.
And I just wanted to note that apparently Attorney Roberts allowed the activity that the commission had been following.
Okay.
The statutes
And-
didn't prohibit what we were doing. It just didn't explicitly say it apparently.
Well, you're allowed to do anything until you get sued.
Correct.
And I would prefer not to bring you down that road.
Well, that's why we have the town attorney to help us stay out of that.
Right. Which is why I asked him and he verified my interpretation.
Okay, so you're gonna verify that was a.
Yep. They will not be able to file their lot line adjustment until I verify that it is in fact legitimate.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Is there any other new business?
No.
Okay, now we can go on the old business, which we table. So we go to number 8, home occupations, anything?
No new home occupation applications.
Communication. You have your report, John?
We have
Yep,
any?
fairly standard. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Chased her right away.
Yeah. Do we have any citizen comments?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I skipped it. I was getting late. Okay, communications, CEO report.
Fairly standard CEO report. You know, it's starting to slow down a little bit in terms of applications. You know, some accessory buildings, a couple of new single family residences. Again, this lot line adjustment on 171. And then a few minor zoning enforcement matters along Route 198 and Bungay Hill Road that basically seem a little bit like a neighbor conflict, and they're each complaining about each other to the zoning officer. So investigating and trying to do a little mediation there, but otherwise nothing extraordinary.
Yes, John, just want to see if there's been any response or follow-up from Azaluna Farm relative to a special permit reapplication.
No, he has not. I did send that follow-up letter following our last meeting, requesting that he detail his proposed adjustments to conditions, and that the commission, I relayed to him that the commission was willing to do what they could to fast track it and perhaps waive fees, as well as, you know, the complicated special permit, you know, map submissions. But I have not received a response.
Okay, thank you.
Budget report. Nothing of significance that we get bills and we pay them. Correspondence, I didn't see any in the packet. I haven't received any. Do you have any, John?
I have no additional correspondence.
Mr. Young.
To adjourn.
Oh, Doug, sorry. Better be quick, Doug.
Needless to say, I met with John today.
Yes.
So, and this is not something we're gonna start at 9:15 in a meeting, but John and I had a discussion. Who's supposed to be reviewing these applications to make sure they're in compliance with our regulations? And I'm not doing it. I spent 2 to 3 hours on this today. And I don't want to be the bad guy that's telling people what's missing for their application. But as John said, we haven't given him any direction in terms of who do we expect to be doing that. And that's something that I think the commission needs to discuss. I went in and asked John this morning if there was any kind of report from our planner on whether this met our requirements of our regulations. He really not sure whether he should be doing that, and I think that's a discussion the commission at some point needs to have.
Okay.
Who is going through that line item by line item to make sure that it's the applicant is addressing the conditions of our requirements of our regulations. When I sat on the other table, I always looked forward to getting Delia's letter.
Yeah.
First of all, it told me what I missed and what I had to address. But it was, you looked forward to getting that. And so that's something we would like John to be doing for us on these applications.
I assume that was the basis of having Tyke take over the same role that NECOG was doing. And NECOG was reviewing all the applications, as well as the CEO, Dan Malo at that part, was reviewing all the applications and would often respond to the commission that all the details of the application had satisfied the regulations, fees, the terms. So I assume that that's what was happening with the land use office. But if that's not clear, then I think it's important that it becomes clear, given that that's what NECOG had been doing, and Tyke took over what NECOG had been doing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
But
where is the onus and the responsibility on the applicant? I mean, here's some people I think that are trying to avoid, expenditures, and they're coming in and they're really not prepared because they're not familiar with the planning and zoning rules. They're not they don't even know the permit application. And they're trying to present this. And really, they should be going through an engineer. And, like Doug pointed out, in regard to the plan, I mean, how many parking spaces really? This was brought up in their last application, we mentioned.
Talking about an application.
Well, so if I'm, yeah, no, if I'm,
That's a public hearing, is still open.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can't talk about that.
All we can talk about is what role that we're looking for our planner to be doing for us.
sure.
Which is
So
Joseph.
And what, so I, and certainly the, the review of applications for completeness is a standard thing. I think Doug, my conversation with Doug today, was also in my mind about sort of the level of formality and the level of sort of discussion and weighing of factors that I think I haven't quite figured out yet with this commission. Certainly, it's filling out the application and paying a fee and notifying abutters and things like that. That's all taken care of, and I provide that guidance to all applicants. I will say, and I explicitly, when people are coming in for a special permit, direct them to the special permit submission materials, as well as the commission review standards. And explicitly, ask people to address these items in their narrative and in their preparations. I do not control whether or not they comply with that. That said, if this commission would like, there's sort of two levels of analysis. One is essentially application completeness, which we can put together, and I haven't found one, but we can put together a sort of a checklist to submit with application reviews to make sure that things are submitted or waiver requests are in place. The second is, particularly in special permits, for this is a judgment call, and in cases where the most significant decision points are going to be neighborhood impacts. It's not yet clear to me, and we can do some trial and error on this, about what level of information and analysis the commission would like me to provide in reviewing or commenting on the relative merits of an application as relates to neighborhood impacts and some of those judgment calls that are left to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm happy to do it. But yeah, it's not exactly. We need to figure out what's the level of information you guys are interested in. But please rest assured that applicants know the regulations that they need to follow, whether or not they provide all the information for whatever reason, expediency, cost, whatever, that is on them.
John, I'm glad you brought that up, especially about these 9 criteria, because over the years, we've seen applicants come in, address these 9 or how many there were previously, and all they simply do is repeat what we're asking them for. Like if we say, will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare, the applicant will simply write in, it will not adversely affect public health, safety, and welfare, period. Nothing to support that, nothing to make an argument. So I like the criteria. I think they're comprehensive, but we need, like you're suggesting, some sort of standard or guideline or series of checkboxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have those guidelines, and special permits are forever. So I think it's important that even if we have to come up with a checklist and say, either you need a A2 survey or you can ask for a waiver. You don't always need an A2 survey, but there's plenty of times when you don't. There's times when you do, but just go through so that, these guys can't talk about that, but just so that people know what they're expected to have, so that we're not having this public hearing go on forever and ever.
Right, and it's fair to the public, and that's part of our role is to.
And it's hard for people that are interested to keep coming to hearings.
Yeah, navigate.
So I think it's just something we need to work through so that we are functioning on the same level and
Mhm.
communicating better.
Sure.
I mean, we haven't, yes,
Is it something that, cause these proposals come to us and we make the decision or the regulations make the decision whether it's gotta go to the public hearing. Should at that time we be making definite stipulations in the already created regulations that this is gonna be a noise generator, so will be providing us with a noise survey. This will impact the road, so you will give us, and fortify these things that, you're only gonna have 3 people there, so we don't have to worry about the sewer part, but, we should.
yeah,
We should be
we're
doing
just
the checklist.
Just reinforce the checklist. and say,
Right,
these-
reinforce the
these-
checklist
they're-
and specify. No, you can't write it. No, it's not gonna have any impact, or just a little bit. You can't write that in. You have to provide us. We're gonna stipulate what you're gonna have to provide us with. So that,
Yeah,
As I mentioned, I didn't want to start this discussion at 9:30, but I just thought it should be, John and I had a discussion today, and I just thought it should come in front of the commission that we should address this. I think a checklist is a good start.
And it's my job is to help you guys make better decisions, and yeah, that's important to know.
yeah. So, okay, so we can work on that. People think about it and we can discuss this on our first meeting in January.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason why the checklist can't be robust. In other words, just as Tim was saying.
express concern.
I mean, basically, if there's any concern whatsoever that this proposal will, if accepted, will, result in, significant noise, please provide us with a acoustic, evaluation, et cetera. We can do that, right? I mean, it's
I mean, it's in the
regulations.
in there.
Just we need to highlight it and say, hey, this is the one you really gotta.
But if we're creating a checklist, just say it.
Yeah, just kind of, it's checklist is just gonna basically be our guidelines.
Right.
They have to provide, and just to make sure that they're aware of what they need, because it's. Okay,
Motion made, Dan.
motion is made, second,
Seconded, is it already seconded?
Yes.
all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Any opposition? No.
Happy holidays, everybody, and go